Why do I bother? Why do I even bother comparing this to the books? Well, sorry for the shaky cam first off, like I'm saying this on my lap. And this is Kill the Boy, and again, once again, I'm going to break it down by episode, by storyline, and similar to the books, this show has been really slow, like not much has happened, and I feel like it's suffering a bit just because they can't go as much into depth or detail about some of the storylines. Like, if you're curious, haven't read the books, read the books. Like, Tyrion's journey is a lot more fun. Cersei goes completely crazy. And yeah. So yeah, a lot of setup for this. So let's start with Mirren, since that's pretty much, I think, the most interesting storyline here. But yeah, this was a pretty slow episode all around. The last step, although I feel like Daenerys had the best setup. Not counting the romance plotline, which I didn't care for. I did care for Daenerys' story. I like how she's making tough calls. She's doing what she needs to do as a ruler. And it's way better than the books, where I felt like in the book she was a little weak in terms of, like, she submitted to what the guy she married in this episode, whereas in the book, it's like he promises her peace, and she's like, okay, whereas in the book, it's like, no, I'm going to marry you and bring peace to Mirren, and that's way stronger than the books. Also, in the book, she's, like, really obsessed with Dario. And I love how she's making an example of the rulers by feeding one to her dragons. Just a lot of great stuff with Daenerys. And, I mean, again, the Wall was probably the weakest storyline, simply just because it was a lot of setup and establishment. Like, it was basically, you know, just sort of establishing the Walkers are coming, we need the Wildlings' help, and we're sending Stannis out. And again, not much happens. I mean, not much happens in the book either, but yeah, I don't know. Yeah, the Wall, I don't know. I always found the Wall a bit interesting in the books, whereas the show, they aren't really making me care much. But yeah, like, everyone went to Winterfell, which is different from the books, where in the books, like, first off, Davos is off doing something completely different. In the books, Melisandre stays behind, and the wife and the daughter stay behind. And looks like Jon Snow's going to be heading north, which doesn't do that in the books. In the books, he pretty much chills out the Wall most of the time, and based on this, it seems very unlikely that a certain character, who, if you've read the books, you know what I'm talking about, there's a certain character who shows up at the Wall, and it doesn't seem like we're going to be going into that at all in the show. Or that we're going to be going into detail about like, there's a certain character who goes to who's sent to Braavos in the books, and it doesn't seem like that character is going to go to Braavos either. Winterfell probably was also kind of weak. It was mainly just establishing where everyone's at, giving Sansa an out, and mainly just establishing how much of a jerk Roose Bolton is. He's basically Joffrey 2.0 at this point. And Tyrion's story was one of the better things. I do like stuff between Peter Dinklage and Sir Davos, although I feel like it's lacking a bit from the books. Like, because they're just cutting a straight line to Daenerys, like, they're kind of skipping over a lot of the interesting characters and locations that Tyrion bumps into, and it is lacking, although I do like although I don't think the encounter with the Stoneman added anything. That is in the book, in case you're wondering, but it was nicely set up with them talking about the dumping ground for all the Stonemen and the girl. So it'll be interesting to see where that goes. And I'm just looking at my notes to see if I didn't touch anything. Yeah. No Arya, no Dorne, no King's Landing. Basically, most of the really interesting storylines this season weren't there, so we were just left with the one I really like, the one I kind of like, and then the ones I really don't care about. But all the storylines that weren't shown this episode are going to be in the next episode, and it's clearly the writers struggling to do this all in one season, which is a hard job. Like, I feel like the writers are wishing they had more than 10 episodes to do all this, but they're managing, although this does give me comfort as a book fan, because It's so far off from the books at this point that honestly there's still going to be a ton of stuff that won't be spoiled. Like, Sir Barristan's still alive in the books. There's a lot of characters, storylines at the wall that aren't happening the way they should. Just a lot of stuff. So leave your thoughts below if you have any, and like, dislike, subscribe, and this is JStar60, and I'll see you guys next week. And yes, winter is coming. Take care.